This is a 23-year-old from Tennessee, and he's going viral for his pro-abortion rights argument, and people are calling it excellent. Okay, let's listen to this guy's pro-abortion argument.
So let's say she gives birth to me, and then 20 years later, I go into kidney failure, and I require a kidney transplant to survive. And my mother is the only viable match on the planet. There is not a single law, local, federal, in any red state, in any pro-life government that would compel her to give one of her kidneys to me, right? Because in that circumstance, we recognize that her bodily autonomy is that important. That is like an essential liberty and a freedom. My mother could die, and we could still not harvest the kidney from her corpse to give to me. So let's say she gives birth.
Okay. So this guy is making an argument, which is a legitimate argument for bodily autonomy, but his premise is false. Okay, because his premise assumes that a kidney and a baby in the womb are the same thing, and they're just not. They're not the same thing. But that he's assuming that they are. He's not doing the hard work of thinking this thing through and really, going to first principles and saying, is a kidney and a baby the same thing? He's just assuming that they are, right? And so I reject his premise. His premise, it's a false equivalence that a kidney and a baby are the same thing, an unborn baby. A kidney is a kidney, and a baby is a human being, and a human person, and has a separate identity than the mother, who's another being, who's a separate being, right? So the kidney is a part of a person's body. A baby is a body itself with its own kidneys. And so the circumstance of a kidney being in the body and a baby being in the body is actually an accidental circumstance. But the fact that a kidney can be held onto because it's a part of a person's body, and it's a part of their body, is totally different than a baby that is a part, living within a person, but is not a part of their body like a kidney is. A baby lives within a person, and because it is vulnerable and lives within a person, it has to be protected. Unlike a kidney, in the sense that it has to be understood that it is a human life, a separate human life than the mother, although it does depend upon the mother's keeping. It does depend upon because it's so vulnerable, it does depend upon the mother to be responsible and properly take care of it and protect it and to nourish it. Now the body of a mother naturally nourishes the baby, so it's not like whatever she eats, the baby eats. As far as I understand with that process, it's not like she has to kind of go out of her way to take care of that. But I will say, once the baby comes out of the mother, it's still a baby, and the law, interestingly, recognizes that once a baby comes out of the mother's body, all of a sudden, in the pro-abortion states, as soon as the baby leaves the mother's body, all of a sudden it magically becomes a human being that is protected by law. But when it's inside the mother in the pro-abortion states, and how this guy would want it to be as a pro-abortionist, it's not a baby. Something's magically stopping it from becoming a separate human life. But it's interesting because when a kidney leaves the mother's body, the kidney leaves the mother's body because she gives it to another person as a donation. It's still a kidney. You see, this is the magic of the pro-abortion argument that is actually unexplained. I've never heard the explanation for this. How a kidney, I'd love this guy to explain this to me. How is it that a kidney, when the kidney leaves the mother's body, it's still a kidney, but when the baby in a pro-abortion state leaves the mother's body, um, it wasn't a baby, but then it all of a sudden becomes a human being. It all of a sudden becomes magically a human being with human rights and all these things. Please explain that. Make that make sense, because that math isn't mathing. So yeah, I reject his premise. He's making a false equivalence. A kidney and a baby are not the same thing, and a baby is a separate human being, and a human person with full dignity, the same dignity that the mother who carries it has. And so that means that if you harm a baby in the womb, you are harming a human being, and you should be punished for that. As far as the law goes for hurting a baby. And if you murder that baby in the womb, you should be guilty of murder, and you should be charged for murder. And yeah, that's the truth of abortion. Abortion murders a human being. That's what abortion is. It's murder. And so both the abortionist, the person who is the doctor, the abortion doctor, who's actually doing the dirty work, who's kind of the hitman, as Pope Francis said, the abortionist is the hitman that the mother hires, but the mother who hires the hitman is also complicit in the crime and should be punished. So that's the truth. All right.